Hey, Corona TV viewers, this is Peter Keys from Leonard Skinner. I want to wish you all a happy birthday.
First of all, let's just do the elbow bump because we can't do the handshake right now.
Hello, everybody on Corona TV. This is Macy Gray.
You're smiling, and I saw your beautiful daughter earlier, who I said could come on the show anytime. Welcome, Shiv Singh.
Thanks for having me, Joseph. Great to be with you.
Hello, everybody from Austin, Texas. It turns out South by Southwest was not canceled. There are going to be only 2 people here this year. It's going to be myself and my guest, David Armano. We're back at the All Hat. The All Hat is back, everybody, and it's better than ever before. It is the place where I got Superman underpants, and I still wear them to this day. And I remember it was Jamie Punishaw, if I remember correctly, and myself walking around with the underpants over our pants. Those were the good old days when we had no more cares in the world, and we could flit and frolic down the streets of Austin, Texas, wearing our weird-looking hats and our Superman underwear. I mean, that's going to be the tone of the show. There's going to be levity, and there's going to be some seriousness. It was good catching up with David. The bookies are betting on an under of tears being shed. I'm actually starting to feel quite emotional right now. It's just amazing to be able to connect with so many people and catch up with so many people, and really do what I really wanted to do with Corona TV, which was to inspire people and give people hope and positivity and optimism. And if there's time left over, we may talk a little bit of marketing. So we'll see where that goes. Yesterday was just a phenomenal moment for me being with Mr. Mark Bowden. He schooled me. I mean, this guy was a pro. So I set up my whole thing relative to exactly what Mark wanted or told me to do or should have done. I put the little smiley face. That was there. I put my notes on the side. But I also have a new MacBook today. So I have my new MacBook Pro, and I'm just hoping that everything works and unfolds the way it was meant to. Let's just hope it works. As always, if you like the show, please, like the show, comment, share the feed right now with people that are watching or that you think might enjoy the show or David Armano, generally David Armano. Again, why would anybody watch the show for me? Subscribe on coronatv.show or JaffyJuiceTV.tv. That would mean a lot to me. Today, I am, as I've mentioned, privileged to welcome back a friend, a good friend, an old friend. He's not that old, but he's a friend. And the word friendship should not be underplayed during this time. And we can talk about, maybe David and I will talk about what does it mean to be a friend in a social media-enabled world or COVID-enabled world. David is the Chief Pause Officer at Taking a Moment. And again, I'm going to have to ask him, is that an LLC? Is it a B Corp, a C Corp, an A Corp, a Z Corp? I'm not really sure. But he's no longer at Edelman after almost 11 years. This week, he announced that he was leaving Edelman. And this was coincidental, or maybe not coincidental. Maybe there are no coincidences in life. Maybe that is what fate is all about, that he would happen to come on the show literally 2 days after announcing to the world that he was leaving this company that he was a part of for 11 years. And no doubt we're going to talk about that. Next week's interviews are going to be, totally eclectic, man, totally eclectic. Sean Thompson is regarded as one of the world's best surfers of all time. He's a Hall of Famer. Women wanted to marry him, men wanted to be him or kill him. I remember growing up in South Africa idolizing this guy. He's going to be on Monday, and he's got a story that you would just not expect to hear. Then talking about, old friends, again, not the age, but going back to the beginning of social media, Shel Holtz and Neville Hobson, the original for immediate release. They both worked with me at Crayon. They will be on on Tuesday, the original PR podcast as far as I'm concerned. On Wednesday, Rob Cantrell. Rob was on Last Comic Standing. He is a stand-up comedian, but he's an entrepreneur. Maybe he'll even perform for us. Who knows? And then we'll round off the week with Richard Owen talking about customer experience. And I'm so happy. Laura, Laura and I have never met in real life, but we share a publisher. She is dynamic. She's written an incredible book. We're going to talk all about it. We're going to talk about whatever's on her mind. And she's been streaming every day as well. So we'll talk about that experience. So that is next week. It is National Veggie Burger Day. So happy National Veggie Burger Day to all of you, especially those of you that enjoy Impossible and Beyond as I do. We'll just, celebrate it. Have a veggie burger. More to say on that, I will not. Happy Facebook birthday to all of my Facebook friends. You can see yourselves hopefully on the list. Celebrate your days and celebrate your special day. And of course, to all my LinkedIn friends as well. I saw this on Facebook today. It was a post that said, I did not kill George Floyd. And just, to set a little bit of context, above that post as well was also WLM, as in White Lives Matter. And below this post, this is one of my Facebook friends, one of my 5,000 Facebook friends. Below that was a comment that said, yes, you did, you're white. I almost got sucked into it, and I started writing a post, and I started saying, I'm going to unfriend you. And I started saying, actually, you and the post that said, yes, you did because you're white, none of this is appropriate. None of this is helpful. None of this is constructive. None of this is part of the solution or the healing process. And then, do you know what I did? I purposefully did nothing, but I did unfriend this person. And I did it feeling a little guilty, thinking maybe I should have. Yes, former friend, Adam. Let me put you on there. Former friend now. I felt a little guilty thinking that I should have done something, that I should have said something. But I knew, and I know during these tough times, that you cannot change someone's worldview during these times. No amount of logic will help. Maybe some emotion will help. Maybe what we need, quite frankly, is logic and emotion. And that brings us to today's seated soliloquy, which of course is inspired by and in honor of my guest and my friend, David Armano. And it's called Value. We live in a world where we're valued based on the company we keep, or the company that keeps us. But shouldn't it be the other way around? A company is nothing more than an empty shell, a container, an inanimate edifice that moves decimal points around a spreadsheet and makes a bunch of bean counters happy or not. The real value comes from the people inside the company, and it's something we've always known. This week, we saw yet another round of corporatees, white text on a black background indicating we're with you. We stand against racism. We stand for justice. And we will take a good, hard look at ourselves and introspect accordingly. What we need instead is to make the change and be the change that is so sorely needed. We need to shatter glass ceilings, concrete walls, and false floors. We need to replace minimum wage with maximum wage. And in doing so, vanquish the virus of racism by becoming a true role model and leader. I'd like to see companies donating their media time to promoting the businesses of customers or partners of color, elevating people from within and celebrating them accordingly, creating codes of conduct that cover racial bias but don't end there. I'd like to see companies hold on to their employees before holding on to profits. I'd love to see companies remind themselves that it is people that power brands, not logos, design, copy, advertising, or messaging. That it is relationships built on trust, respect, loyalty, and honor that will prevail long after the financial year has closed, dividends have been released, and budgets have been finalized. That real friendships forged over time with real emotions, and real empathy will always trump rational, analytical thinking and logic. This is what value is really about. And I'm here to tell you that you are really valued. Emotion 1, logic 0. It's now time to try not to get too emotional, but to bring on the man himself, my current friend, and hopefully always friend, David Armano.
Where's the hat, Joseph?
The hat, my friend, is right here.
There we go. There we go. We have to at least have it on for a few seconds since you have the background.
Yeah, but I don't know what I look like. I look like an idiot. I'm trying to like...
We both look like idiots.
So welcome to All Hat, my friend.
It's a trip down memory lane for sure.
We had the most funniest exchange, which is we're on Facebook and you're messaging me saying, Joe, the only email I have for you is crayon. And what I didn't tell you is, for some reason, the only email I had for you when I was looking was agency.com.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because that goes pretty far back in my career, and a really great place in my career. I spent 6 years. They were one of the first digital agencies created, and so that's something else. So,
and that also may have been because my spotlight was indexing. I was getting verklempt here. Maybe I'll just have some water. Why am I getting verklempt? You're the one that needs to get verklempt.
I think you're trying to trigger it in me.
So a bunch of hellos. Joey Demont, hello to you. Jan Slotnick said he's been waiting for this, for B time with David Armano.
Oh, that's awesome. So what Jan said, and Daniel, hey Daniel, what Jan said was, Joseph, those things stand out to me because he was basically calling out work that I led, and that means, this is where I'm almost gonna get there. That means so much to me, Joseph, because one of the things that I sort of grapple with is that I'm taking the hat off now because it kind of
because tell them why.
Well, he's calling out work that
tell them why you took the hat out. Talk about your hair.
Oh yes, I did. I just got my haircut. Got my first haircut. It was a very strange experience. I'll get back to my original point in a second, but I have to say the new normal is going to be weird. The first hairdresser, and I felt so bad for her, Joseph, she had a panic attack.
Oh, shame.
And, related to your intro, the second hairdresser, black guy, and we just, we had a great conversation and we talked about what was going on. And I think that's what we have to do. We have got to make effort. And it was a wonderful conversation. We talked about everything. It was super natural. There was no effort. And I think that's where we're at. That's the part that we can play. But anyway, to go back to my original point, to what Jan brought up. So that was work that I led while I was at Edelman, work that I'd done in the past year and a half. And those comments mean so much to me, Joseph, because that's my work. That's not me wearing a hat or talking on a stage. I don't even do that much anymore. It's my output that I get through other people, teams, like talented people, and leading and directing and navigating with CMOs and CEOs to get them on board with the thinking. So I have had a lot of those moments where people have called out either a kind act or work that they realize I've done, and it's kind of been exploding my heart and my brain.
Well, there's a lot more love coming in for you from Steve Garfield to Johnny Dean saying you're a rock star with visually explaining tech and marketing. Ted, who I had just an amazing session with him during cocktails. We actually discussed. Can you imagine if we'd done cocktails, David? That would not have not have gone well.
What was going to happen with that would have really been living life on the edge.
Vladimir is saying hello, so all the way from Montenegro. He's still trying to get me to come out and keynote. I have never said no, so we'll figure that out.
You should go out there. It's a great experience.
I want to. We're negotiating.
Oh, this warms my heart. See, Michael Donnelly. I mean, this is man.
Well, I would tell you something. David, because the thing about friends, and I've always said this, is your real friends are the people that show up when times are tough,
Yes.
not during good times.
Yeah.
And people reveal their colors.
Yeah.
And it is just as simple as that.
Yes.
And now more than ever, there is so much lip service going on. And we see who will stand up for someone and help someone. But in this case, these are people that are here. There's Eddie coming to celebrate you. And trust me, this is a record number of comments coming in. There is Rodney and there's Adam Keats. Adam, we can do cocktails at 11.
Who doesn't know Adam Keats?
So
Adam Keats,
a former colleague. It's
and a former Edelman.
Well, you were talking about Edelman earlier, and you said we, and it's going to take time. It takes time. It's hard.
Yes, I'm almost 11 years. And Joseph, one of the things that we were talking about, if there's anything that I can get, a gift that I can give others on this show, because I believe it's a gift. I had a great run at Edelman. Departing was not my choosing. There was public news out there. It is a very tough situation with COVID, and there were other business factors. And at the end of the day, a business is a business, and tough decisions get made. Now, that aside, what Joseph and I were talking about earlier was that for anyone that's ever worked at anywhere for a long time, and I would say by these standards, like 5 years or more, no matter how good your run is, and mine was great. I mean, I was busy to the end, doing work I was proud of, working with colleagues I was proud of, clients that I love to work with. But when you work somewhere for a long time, you begin to lose your identity, and it really becomes wrapped into, and that's a part of, it should be, like some of it should be that. You have to take on the identity of the place. But I think that it's very common that people, and this started happening to me, you start to forget your value. And so, yes, I find myself jobless right now. However, I actually feel very confident because in the past year, I started working on myself and actually leaning into and understanding my value. And so I think that most people who wouldn't do that, who would spend a long time somewhere where it's a part of their identity, I think that it would be a harder transition to make. I think that your confidence would be shaken. So I look at the next few months as uncertain and challenging, but my confidence is not shaken. Like I understand my abilities, and I'm comfortable with that.
It's so valuable to have you on today because it's just not that common for someone that has been laid off to be talking about it in a public environment. And there are people at home that need to hear from you and need to hear this. And there are people who are not nearly as fortunate as you and lucky as you to have to have the talents you do, the relationships you do, the legacy that you have, and you don't take that for granted for 1 second. No. You can tell you have the humility, but I think people need to realize, and that's why I said it in the soliloquy, you have value. You guys out there, you are valued, and we live in a world sometimes where that value can be prescribed by a corporation, and it shouldn't be based on the VP or the SVP. And I know this because I eat what I kill, and sometimes I go home really hungry. And so in one respect, I'm saying welcome to my world, welcome to the real world. But I don't think there's anybody that doubts that you will land on your feet. But the real value today is for you to inspire people around you to say, you can do this too.
Joseph, it's very humbling. I mean, I have gone through, so I will say, and I wrote about this. This is a new experience for me. I've actually never experienced this. I think in my entire life, I had been let go from an organization once when I was working in college, part-time job. I've been fortunate in my career. I had worked at multiple agencies, and it just never happen for whatever reason. It never happened to me. And so I think a lot of people watching this probably have had it happen, and they know it's a roller coaster. It is a mix of emotions, and 1 minute you're feeling like, okay, you're going to be okay, and another minute you're really feeling low, and then 1 minute you're laughing, and then another minute you're crying. I have no problem showing my emotion, but I'm not a sobber by any stretch. Like I'm more of a leaker. I'll leak a little bit, you know. I get misty. I've been like sobbing this week, and it's actually even been helpful to realize what's been happening. Like like my body didn't understand how to process the emotion, so I had no other way to express it but just to do that. And usually what triggered me was a note. I mean, I was like inundated. I mean, this is almost going to sound like I was like shots were being taken at me, but it was the opposite. Like I was being inundated by email after email and text after text, and like people like saying these crazy nice things about me, recalling all these stories. And every time I read one, I mean, like I'd read a few in a row, and I would just lose my shit, Joseph. I would just lose it.
You know, Tally just said, if I pronounced your name correctly, we need to start another revolution, the revolution of communities. And it actually prompted me to put up one of my favorite quotes in the whole world, which is the definition of community is a group of strangers who care about each other a little bit more than they should. And we are more than strangers, you and I, and the people that are clearly out there. I mean, the comments that are coming in for you are amazing. You can probably read that as well from W. Jesse Wright. But you know what? This is the time, I call it the honeymoon period, David. And I've given this advice to so many people. I've been through it myself.
Yeah.
You see very quickly, within minutes, days, weeks, how valued you were, because people come out of the woodwork and they celebrate you, and you'd be surprised how many, you know, obviously these are unprecedented times, but suddenly projects and consulting and all of these opportunities come out, and it is a tribute and a testament to you, to your integrity, to your value, and to how many lives you've touched, often without even knowing it. You know, blogs have been forgotten and almost anonymized, but every time you put a piece of content out there, you have no idea how many lives you touched or are touching, and what a difference you made.
You said it. I mean, you said it all. I was prepared for the emotional roller coaster in only an intellectual way. Okay, so you know it in your head, and then you find yourself sobbing, and you're like, oh, this is what it feels like. So you're never really prepared. I didn't expect, nor was I prepared for the outpouring of support, and I didn't expect, nor was I prepared at all for how it would make me feel. And I wrote this on my post, because my blog is still live, and I publish every once in a while. And I wrote something along the lines of that. What popped into my head, the reoccurring thought is, every time I get one of these text messages or direct messages or emails or voicemails, I would think, who is this wonderful person that they're talking about? And I've been challenging myself to silence that voice. To you know, we all have to work on ourselves. That's a problem I have. I'm hard on myself, and I've been working on silencing that. That's a critical voice. I mean, I'm not the type that's sort of not the sort of granola type, and I'm not like big on this self-affirmation, and I don't mean that in any bad way. I'm pretty grounded, but I grapple with that. And so I've been working with that. I've been letting myself actually believe that I am that person.
Well, you know, if ever things get tough and you need to call on the Asian mafia, they're apparently behind you all the way.
Hi, Duke.
So just want to let you know, you're going to be okay. Hopefully they're crazy rich Asians.
Everyone needs some Asian mafia. Like, you can't go wrong. When you got that having your back, you're going to be okay.
All right. Well, can I call on Duke as well if I need some help?
I can probably call a favor.
You are a good friend. I want to talk about two things. You know, when we think about legacy and we think about contribution, there was something, and I believe it was last year, South by Southwest. It seems so weird to think about, to just think about last year was that there was nothing this year, and when was last year? Was it 2019 or 2018 or something like that?
Yeah. Yes, and
but
the first that they took it, they didn't do it for COVID reasons, obviously.
But this is what I remember, and this talks about the man that you are. You went through, you decided to do all these interviews, and you sought people out, and you had just real conversations with them, and you made me, because I was one of them, feel like $1,000,000, like I was really important and valued to you. And you posted these videos with a long description that wasn't cut and paste, that wasn't cookie cutter, that was from your heart. That's the lasting legacy of a man with integrity and a man with heart. And that's what people remember.
I mean, and Joseph, like, the fact that you call that out is so meaningful to me. So I think you know this, but I started my career as a visual designer. And I obviously advanced in my career. I'm so much more than that, but that part of me is just, it's never going to go away. And what you saw was by design, and not in a way within, you know, not in a calculated way, but in a purposeful way. And it's by design because of this. And I'm going to share with you, I'm not going to reveal this person's name, but I had a conversation with a visible social media person, and he was grappling with how he was perceived. And I said, listen, I said, I think what you're struggling with is you're putting the camera on yourself too much. And we're living in an age where, like, people are really struggling with, like, everybody's putting the camera on themselves. It is part of culture, but there's an opportunity to put the camera on someone else. And it's exactly what you just said. When you do that, it shows them, like, you're shining the light on them. And when I say by design and purposeful, that is by design. Like, I do that intentionally because that is my way to fight back a little bit. That's my way to say, you know what? You need to be putting the camera on others a little bit. We're shining it too much on ourselves. It's not good. It's not good for our mental health. It's not good for our well-being. It's not good for society if we do that too much. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I take selfies every once in a while. There's nothing wrong with it. But you can, just like anything in life, food, alcohol, any indulgence, you can overdo it. And so those acts are for others, but they're also for myself too, because it's healthy. It's healthy to put the camera on someone else. It's healthy for your soul.
Well, it was anyone that was a part of that. It was so meaningful. And the point is, David, it stood out. You know, I always love the wordplay of the word exceptional has the word accept in it. You know, you've got to be different. You've got to be the exception to be, or to have a chance of being exceptional. And now we can go all the way back to the beginning of logic and emotion. First of all, how visionary it was to recognize that the solution lies between technology and humanity, that the bridge that we need to cross is between the automatic, and the manual, and the stuff that, and it works as well in a style guide or in a playbook as well. The ability to, everything is about being able to find the middle ground between those two extremes. And so what did you do with this blog? It got everyone's attention. It stood out. It's how I think it's how we met, or how we connected. This blog.
Wait, let me stop you there. You inspired me to find my voice, because I think I was probably at agency.com. And I remember specifically, I was a creative director in the digital, first digital wave, and all of a sudden, like, blogs started happening. And I think I actually had gone to Digitas when I started, but it was at agency.com that I started being a consumer of that content, and yours was one of the first. And I remember obviously I prioritized my client work and everything like that, but I used to send out emails, you know, and that was my attempt at trying to find my voice. And it actually wasn't the right audience. I was too junior in my career. And then I took that voice externally. But Joseph, it was because of people like you, and you in particular. I was so inspired by the things that you were saying, and you were so visionary. Oh, is that a tear in your eye?
No. Sitting back.
You know I'm good at turning the tables.
I'm holding it back, and so are you. What is the score? What is the tier count?
So far, it's 0-0. It's 0-0. There has been none yet.
All right, I'm gonna create a scorecard.
I'm telling you, you have your work cut out for you. But so Joseph, you were one of my key inspirations, and you are an innovator, and you were a visionary, and you saw the changes. And when I listened to your first podcast before podcast and a thing, and then you had me on, I thought I had made it when you had me on. So you played a very big part in me finding my voice. And it's actually like, I feel like I don't even speak much, and people treat me like I do. I barely do public speaking. I barely write, but people still feel like I do. And so I learn from the best, and you're one of the best.
Well, thank you. I truly appreciate that. And I think it just comes back to the whole conversation, which is, you know, I started Corona TV with a mission, and I've stuck to that mission, which is to help people at home and my fellow guests who were authors or speakers that had, you know, that the entire speaking dried up. And now with people looking for a job or people who have been laid off, I want to promote more people that are looking. I want to be a human resume. I want to pay it forward without any expectations. And you know what? It's liberating me. You know, I have purpose. I am so energized, and I put more and more and more hours and work into this because it is meaningful. It's meaningful work. And I tell you, like, the growth that, I mean, in a way, we're both laid off in many respects. If you're an entrepreneur, you're constantly laid off. And the only difference between being an entrepreneur and a corporate person is people tell you you're laid off when you're an entrepreneur, and they continue to reject you. And there's no safety net. Yeah. But I tell you, the growth that has come out of this is immense. Yeah. Which is, it's allowing me to quieten down. Oh, I think I might have crashed there.
You did freeze.
Yeah. No, we'll see if it comes back. But it has allowed me. But you can still hear me, right?
I can hear you.
There, we're back. No, I was saying it has allowed me to quieten down the outside voice and start to listen more to the inner voice, and start to listen to my guests and learn from them instead of trying to be the smartest person in the room.
I hope we can segue, because you got into sort of your sense of purpose. That's a good segue to resilience. I'd love to talk about that next, but I want to say one thing before we go there, Joseph, and I want to say this: if there's anyone in the corporate world, especially on the client side, and maybe on the client side where they're in a good business like tech, or even, I mean, food is back, where you have safety and security, what Joseph said is really important as an entrepreneur, and I want to be an advocate for that. I'm an agency person, right? You know, or at least that's been my background. Who knows where I'll go next? I'm open to a number of things, and I know I can do a number of things. I've just happened to be someone who's worked at agencies for a while. So when you are an entrepreneur, or even when you're on the agency side, you're in the service industry business, and you are very client solutions focused, and some clients let you know that. And, you know, that's hard. That's hard, because you're putting all your work and you know, the good ones, they know you're a partner and they treat you like a partner. And I'm not saying there's bad ones, but you're not always treated like a partner. And I would say in this time especially, you're on the client side, if you're working for one of these businesses that, like, things are good and you have security, please be mindful of your agency partners and your consultants and your, you know, the people that are helping you be successful, helping you get that promotion. Please be mindful.
Yeah, it's beautiful words, you know. And whereas maybe earlier in our careers we might have said what goes around comes around, it's not a warning now. It's not meant to chastise. It's just meant to remind us to stay humble and aware and self-aware. So beautifully said. Well, you wanted a segue, my friend. I will give you a segue. This is, I believe, the last. This is the last thing you wrote as part of Edelman.
This was my swan song. I mean, I was doing a lot of client work, but this was sort of the last, I guess, offering that I would have done for Edelman.
So why don't you introduce it to us? And because it's obviously, the concept of resilience is one of the most strongest forces and most powerful ideas that we all need to encapsulate right now.
Yeah, Joseph, it's very straightforward. It's almost common sense. People think I have this gift for simplifying complexity, but I feel like this was a no-brainer. That the number one quality that anything should have, organization, human being, operation, is resilience. Because we are living in some insane times, and it's going to be resilience that builds your future. It is that simple. It is going to be, and we're not talking about surviving only. We're talking about actually coming out of this maybe even better and stronger, because that's what resilience is. So that is the quality. And I don't know if you have that other graphic with the sort of target kind of visual.
You mean that graphic?
That graphic right there. And Joseph,
I might.
There, perfect. So look, this was something I looked to psychology. Myself and my partners, we looked at humanity, and we looked at psychology, and we broke apart the things that make resilience, and then we deconstructed them. And sort of thought about them in a brand context. And so what you were talking about, Joseph, is being values-led. When you were talking about having a sense of purpose, that means that you are operating off a value system, and it is essential now. If you don't have a defined value system, whether you're a human being or you're a brand or organization, I mean, look what's going on. Look at the soul searching that all these brands are trying to do, and some are really nailing it and some are struggling. If you don't have a value system as a brand, you are going to really struggle with authenticity and connecting with people. And that leads to the next one, connected. You have got to be connected to your partner ecosystem, to your audiences, to your consumers, and it has to be meaningful. And we're not just talking social media, Joseph. One of the examples that I've loved is what Bud Light did with Open for Takeout, where basically, they created a free of service. If you are a restaurant, put in a zip code and people will find you. They will find you on this website, super easy, and know that you're actually open, and they can order takeout. So great example of really connecting to your audience base and your consumer base. Adaptable. Hello. I mean, I am living every single facet of that word. Like, we are in, and this is not going to be a blip, Joseph. This is, you and I have gone through the recession. This is bigger. I mean, I stayed employed during the recession. Granted, I was younger and had a smaller salary, but this is bigger. This is different, and this is these effects are going to last longer. Risk tolerant. Joseph, I'm on your show today because of that quality alone. Like, when you pinged me, and I was going between sort of looking at my package and how like, what am I going to do with that, and how long do I have healthcare and things along that. That's not really the kind of frame of mind where you're thinking about risk and putting myself out in the public and talking on your show. My instinct was that's kind of risky. I don't know if I want to do that. But I actually thought about this framework, and I thought, if it's good for brands, it's good for people, and vice versa.
I by the way, would not have allowed you to chicken out. I'm just letting you know. I would have hunted you down.
Well, that's what friends do. That's what friends do.
Exactly.
And the last one, and one of the most important ones, and you hit on this one many times as well, is built to serve. Brands have got to figure out how they're serving people. When one of the things that really disappointed me about the advertising and marketing community was when they first came out with the social distancing logos, and then they followed up with all the TV campaigns and video campaigns that looked and felt the same and said the same exact thing. And I don't want to be too harsh because everyone's struggling and it's hard to do great work. But I don't think that those things are really serving a purpose. I think actually in some cases they were self-serving, and in other cases they weren't really pushing hard into real human territory. So we put those together as a way to begin to start conversations with brands and get them thinking about how they can sort of like really reset and think about how they could reimagine themselves even in the longer term. Right now, every company is in reactive crisis mode. That will not last forever. They're going to have to reimagine themselves for the long haul.
You know, it's so funny when I look at this, and this is definitely not one of your more complicated or complex visualizations, but I think that's with a very good reason and purpose, which is this is so simple and it's so almost obvious and intuitive, and yet, you know, I have to be able to say it as the guy who wrote Built to Suck, that companies are not built to serve. They are, in fact, you know, built to suck. How many companies would score 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5?
Right.
Even it's just incredible. I remember even back into the join the conversation days where I said, reach. Companies need to be responsive, empathetic, accessible, connected, and human. And the fact is, companies right now, this is the time to look inside and determine to what degree you are risk tolerant, built to serve, values led, connected, and adaptable. Because I think both of us would underscore, if you aren't, you're not going to make it through, or you're not going to make it out intact. That resilience is just not going to be there, because at some point, everything's just going to get torn apart.
Yeah. And Joseph, you know, it all has to stem from trust. There has to be some level of trust. If you, just like with anything else, if you are a brand that really has struggled with trust, you can't even, you're stuck. You can't even start to get to those places. You have to at least have, you don't have to score 100 on trust. You just have to start with some degree of trust. And I think that, you know, those things surround sound trust by design, because they sort of, it becomes central, but they feed off each other, right? The more you do those things, the more you build resilience for yourself. And when you are serving others and you're building resilience for yourself, you're also building trust in the process. So it's all connected, and I don't think it's anything mind-blowing or new. It seems like common sense, but this is a moment where there needs to be a lot of soul searching. You know, again, I use that Bud Light example. It's a simple one. I really like what a lot of the insurance companies have done, you know, where they very quickly, talk about adaptable, they very quickly adjusted rates because people weren't driving. And like, you've actually seen some good examples of some of the grocery stores and the grocery chains in terms of what they've done and you know, changing their compensation structure pretty quickly. You've actually seen some good proof points, and in other cases you haven't. And again, it's not about just doing it in the crisis mode. It's doing it for the long haul, because this thing is going to come in waves. This thing has an economic residual lasting effect that's going to linger and evolve. And 3 months from now, there'll be a new dynamic. Another 3 months from then, there'll be a dynamic, and you can't predict it. You cannot predict it. Like no one's got a playbook for this, which is why adaptable is so key. Yeah.
Well, listen, if you want to come and sing David's praises in our Zoom after show room, all you've got to do is visit bit.ly/CoronaTV after show. David, isn't it great to know that Bit.ly is still around? Because when we were looking for all hat backgrounds, you said, let me see what I can find on Flickr. And I'm like, what? What is Flickr? Flickr's still around? Who knew?
Yeah.
But Bit.ly is still around, so that's a little call to action for people.
Hey, these are good examples of resilient brands right there.
Yeah, and adaptability, because in many respects they've been able to change their value proposition or their go-to-market strategy, or their, you know, that's what I said the show's about, right? Hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's some time, we'll talk about marketing and business and branding. David, I have one more question for you, but if you want to find out more about this man, David Armano, you've just, you know, tuned in for the first time, and suddenly there's this good-looking guy that blows you away, and David Armano on the screen at the same time. then all you got to do is visit davidarmano.com. And David, I was thinking before that if you do not own your name, you're not allowed to come on my show anymore. So that's the thing. It's like, if you want to come on as a guest, but you don't own your www,
No.
find another show.
Many years ago, I've owned that for it's probably over 15 years.
That's how you know you've made it as an entrepreneur, right? When you actually own your own URL. So just a couple of final comments, and then I just want to ask you one more question. I think this came in for me, which is Christine.
I got to say hi to Christine. She's amazing.
You can.
I saw her recently on one of my trips, and she's such a good friend.
But you know, yeah, and she is. And you know, Christine, the reason I put this up, it's right back at you, because when we met the first time, and when I ended up doing some work at the company that you were working for, you validated me. And that's the beautiful thing about it. The validation works both ways. When somebody creates a blog or a beautiful framework or iconography or a book, it's a child. We pour our life into it. And when somebody comes up and says, I appreciate you, or this made a difference in my life, what's happening to you right now, David? It's actually quite, it's inspiring, it's awe-inspiring, and it's overwhelming. You don't know what, you almost look like an idiot. You almost are like, thanks. Like, what do you say to someone that says, I changed my life, my career, you inspired me? It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard to find the words. I have had 3 jobs this week. I've been starting to do all the formality of documents. I have been dealing with personal family issues, and then I have had many hours spent responding to people. I just tweeted something along the lines of, actually, it's not really a job, that's just life. Like, I take that seriously. These people are reaching out. And I also messaged someone this morning that I thought that digital community was dead. And I'm kind of shocked that it's not, but you know what? It's coming back at just the right time, because when I look at what is going on in the world, I watched a few videos this morning, and Joseph, I feel like we're in a movie. I feel like we're watching Joker and meets The Purge meets, I don't know what other like end of world movie, and it's insanity.
Yeah, it is, and I don't have a comeback for that except to say that we will make it through by staying connected to one another and being there for each other. David, my final question for you is, you've gone, they used to say that like the 3 life-changing events, the biggest traumatic events were death of a family member, it wasn't, losing a job was one of them, and I think the 3rd was moving house. You've gone through the job part, and you've also gone through this global pandemic. What's one thing that you've learned about yourself that you didn't know coming into this?
I think I hit on this, Joseph, and this is telling because it's an area that I work on myself. When Jan early on mentioned that work, that project, I have been blown away that he wasn't alone. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people who are calling out my actual work, not my thinking, not my bantering, not my getting up on a stage. And I didn't realize how, I get that my clients would see that, my colleagues would see it, but people from the outside are connecting the dots, and that has blown me away. And so what I've learned about myself is that people actually are, I guess what I've learned about others, which connects to myself, is people watch and they pick it up. I had a reputation at Edelman for being very multifaceted and not fitting neatly into one box, and in a good way, not a bad way, a good way. But I'm getting all this validation of like, oh, I know exactly what you do. I see it. Like, I know what you do. And so I think what I've learned about myself is that validation is helping me be even more comfortable with my identity. I've never been one to be uncomfortable with my identity, but it's made me be like, yes, that's right. Like, I am that. And wow, it's amazing that people can see it.
David Armano is the Chief Pause Officer at Taking a Moment. David, take a pause, take a moment, take a bow. You've earned it. You deserve it. It's been a real pleasure catching up with you, my friend. And I'll see you in the Zoom room in a moment.
All right. Thank you, thank you for all the comments. And Joseph, thank you. This is really great.
You're welcome. And that was David Armano. I will be back on Monday, taking a break on Sunday. Maybe I'll stop the weekend shows, enjoy the family and the warm weather a little bit. But I'll be back on Monday, and I'll be in the Zoom room with David. Take care of yourselves, guys. And I hope this was valuable and meaningful to you. Bye-bye.